What's happening, everybody? Hello there, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. Any new viewers, hit that subscribe button. I'm telling you, the stories are worth it. Hang out there with me. We're going to tell a story today about my man, Fat Frankie. All right, I'm going to post a picture for him right there. See the picture up there in the corner? That's my man, Fat Frankie. He's a great dude. We're going to talk about him right now. This is when I get to Sing Sing. I go to Sing Sing. This is the first prison that I'm going to after being sentenced. So I don't really know anybody in the prison system, just a couple of faces that I was with on Rikers Island, and then they got sent up to prison. So I would see a few of those guys up there. But Fat Frankie wasn't one of them. I didn't know him. Right. So the white guys in Sing Sing, to give you an example, hang out up on a hill. Okay. Excuse me. There's a hill up in Sing Sing. And when you go out into the yard, there's like an area that the white guys and the Jamaican guys share. I've told everybody that in prison, everybody is segregated. So you have the Puerto Ricans have their own section, the Dominicans have their own section, the gangs, the Bloods, and the Latin Kings all have their own section. Everybody got their own section in prison. And in Sing Sing, in B Block, the white guys and the Jamaicans share a hill area. Okay, there's a television up there, a couple of tables up there. And what nice thing about the hill is you could see anyone approaching. You're up on the hill overlooking the whole yard, so you could see if anybody's coming. There's two sets of steps to get up there, to get up on the hill. And so that's where everybody is. So I go up there to meet everybody for the first time. My buddy Jimmy, who I was on Rikers Island with. You see the video I have on Big Jim, me and Big Jim. Jim had like 30 years in prison. We were in Rikers Island together for a few years. So he's bringing me up to the hill to introduce me to the white guys for the first time. And they're all sitting around the card table playing cards, playing pinochle. And so when I get up there, they introduce me. I meet everybody. Hey, what's happening? Shake everybody's hand. How you doing? Nice to meet you. I got the credentials of Jimmy, letting them know that I'm all right. So they're bringing me right in there, and because everybody respects Jimmy, they've known him for many years, and they say, you play pinochle? Right away, you play pinochle? Because we need someone. I said, yeah, I play pinochle. They said, sit down, you'll be my partner. No problem. The thing is, I don't know how to play pinochle at all. I don't know anything about the game, never played the game, but I tell them I know on purpose, just to F with these guys that I just met. You know what I mean? So I sit down, guy deals all the cards. My partner's Fat Frankie. They deal all the cards. I have all my cards, and when you're playing pinochle, there's like a bidding thing. You bid. I still don't know how it works. I never got into the game. I was too hyper to sit there. So the bidding comes around to me, and I saw one of the other guys do this, so I did it. I knocked on the table, pass. I guess there wasn't anything peculiar about it because they went around. Now they start playing. They're throwing out the cards. I throw out a card, and everyone looks at me. What, you don't have any? You don't have any aces? I act like I made a mistake. They come to realize I don't know how to play. I tell them, listen, I don't know how to play. They're like, yo, what's the matter with this guy you just brought here? What's wrong with him? Get that out of here. So I told them I'm just messing with you guys, and that's how I got to meet Fat Frankie. And I would hang out with Fat Frankie every day because we were on the same company together for a little while. So we would start eating. We're breaking bread, and telling stories. And this goes on for a while. I'm hanging out with Fat Frankie for a month or two, but I really don't know anything about him. I just know that he's a good guy. All the guys like him. I know he's very funny. He's always cracking jokes. He's got good stories. He's very funny. He's very humble. He doesn't talk like a tough guy. He doesn't carry himself like a tough guy. It just seems like if I had to guess what Frankie was in there for, I'd say maybe if I didn't know him, I don't know, a DWI, I would think, And so one day I say to him, I said, hey Frank, what'd you get locked up for? You know? And so he says, I'll give you some things to read tonight when you go to your cell. I'll let you read about my case a little bit. And I said, yeah, no problem. And he sends me a manila envelope that night, and I pull it out, and there's 20, 30 newspaper articles with his picture on the cover of the New York newspaper. Fat Frankie busted. Lucchese crime family soldier. So I says, get the fuck out of here. No way in the world. So I yell out from the cell, Frankie, are you serious? He said, I'll talk to you in the morning, kid. So I read all these articles. I realize this guy was was the real deal. This guy was serious as hell, and he was involved with a serious crew of guys. He was a made man, and so in the morning I come out and Frankie starts talking. I said, Frankie, I never would have known in 100 years, and that's because Frankie's an old style gangster. Frankie is one of the ones that never opened his mouth. Frankie is one of the ones that didn't run around talking like a tough guy, and he didn't run around talking like a gangster. So you would never know that he had a lot of serious crime under his belt, that he had some power under his belt. He had a lot of people he can pick up the phone and call under his belt. Frankie had some juice, you know? And it turns out that on this case that he was serving, he was doing state time and then Fed time. And in this scenario, he was doing the state time first. And there was a guy that he was arrested for murder, Frank, and an attempted murder charge. His case is big. You could Google his case and find them all over there. Fat Frankie, and he ended up shooting a guy 12 times in a hit, and the guy lived. The guy lived after getting shot 12 times. The guy he shot, his name was Fat Pete, and Fat Pete lived and testified against him. But he had gotten indicted on some other charges too. So he had to do like 10 in the state, and then he had to go over the feds and do some time in the feds. You know, One time I said, Frankie, come play some handball with me. He didn't want to go because he's a little older than me and he's a little heavy. That's why they called him Fat Frankie. But I get him on the handball court and he swings with all his might and his freaking false teeth come flying out of his mouth across the handball court. I'm like, what is that? I look, it's a set of teeth. I was dying on the floor laughing. Crazy. But Fat Frankie told me about some good jobs that he did. He was out of his mind. And he used to take some big risks when he was on the street. And so Frankie ends up leaving, you know what I mean? He ended up going to Lewisburg. He got packed up and he went to Lewisburg. But I was still corresponding with him after he left. We're still writing letters back and forth. And after he goes to Lewisburg, um, a friend of mine comes to visit me, and my friend had some problems on the street. He had a couple of people that were pushing up on him, trying to extort him. My friend was a legitimate business owner, and a couple of guys showed up, wise guys, trying to extort him. And so I had to be very careful how I explained this to Frankie. I wondered if Frankie could help. But I'm writing a letter from Sing Sing prison, sending it to his family, and then his family is going to send it to him in Lewisburg. And so I have to be really careful how I write. And so what I do is I say, what's up, Frankie? I hope everything's all right. I said, listen, a friend of mine has a business on the street. I said, he's having a hard time with the business. He's got some business problems. I says, and I know you're very good with business. I said, so maybe you can give him a call if it's possible. And I provide him with the information and I send him the letter. And it's about 2 weeks go by, not too long. And my friend comes to visit me. He's like, "Yo, man, you're the man. Da da da. How'd you do that?" I said, "What? I didn't even know anything happened." He was like, "Your man Frankie called me, said I could talk on the phone. Don't worry about it because he was on a cell phone." He says I explained the whole story to him. He goes, and the next day the mob showed up at my job. So I said, what? He goes, he sent a few guys down and they went and grabbed the guys that were trying to extort me and solved the whole problem. Everything is done. They said, don't worry about it. You have any more problems, you just let Fat Frankie know. I said, holy shit, this guy is amazing. So I have to write Frankie another letter. You're unbelievable, man. I says, thank you so much. I can't believe you were able to get that done. And he wrote me back, don't worry about it, kid. Anytime you need anything, you let me know. And so, yeah, he was out of his mind. I remember when he was in Sing Sing, he had a checkbook in Sing Sing. I don't know how he arranged this, but the address to Sing Sing is 354 Hunter Street in Ossining, New York. And he had a checkbook with his name. You're not allowed to possess a checkbook in prison, obviously, but he had a checkbook with his name and the address of Sing Sing underneath it. And they weren't actual checks; they were like almost money orders. Like they were he was very unique thing that he was able to get his hands on. And he was like, "You got anybody that could cash these on the street?" He said, "As long as they're under 10,000, they're gonna cash. I'm telling you." And he was giving them to prisoners who were giving them, and then the prisoners were giving them to their wives on the street or girlfriends on the street. and they were working. They were cashing them. They were going into check cashing places, and these things were clearing, and they were getting 10,000. And the deal was that they can keep half. It was 9,000 actually, and the deal was that the people could keep half, and then the other half had to be sent to Frankie, or brought to Frankie, so he had cash. And he was doing this. This guy was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. He goes, "I don't care if they come get me. Who cares?" And but he was a unique individual, and he had a lot of power, and he was a great guy. He had some sense of humor. He was really funny, and he told me about some amazing jobs that he did. I'll tell you one. And him and a few of his guys in his crew needed some money. And I questioned this when he told me this. I said, "How you don't have no money, Frank? You know what I mean?" I says, "You're a made man. You're in a family." He says, "Oh, we all got wives. We all got kids." He says, "And we live reckless." He says, "So there's three of them in the crew, and they need some money." He said, "So he knows in Manhattan, in the Diamond District, where there's a piece in the window. He knows the exact piece." And that he wants. The guy displays it in the window every day. He says, "So we steal a car." He says, "We drive into Manhattan." He says, 9 o'clock in the morning, rush hour. He said, "We pull the car up right in front of the jewelry store. The piece is in the window already." He says, "I get out with a sledgehammer, smash the window." He says, "And it doesn't break." He says, "It just bounces off the window and sounds like a shotgun. Boom!" He said, "Everyone turns around and looks." He takes another shot. Boom! The sledgehammer goes through. He got the leather gloves on. He reaches through, grabs the piece. They jump in the stolen car. They get right on the FDR and they take off. And then they dump the car, ditch the car. This is before the days of surveillance, remember. They ditch the car. They get into another car. They take off. He says, that afternoon, he said, sold it for 150,000. He said, "Holy shit." He says, "Yeah, we usually don't like to do stuff like that. It attracts too much attention." He said, "But we needed a few dollars." He said, "So we had to do something." Another time he tells me a job when he was doing a jewelry store. They were cutting a hole in the roof. But as they're cutting the hole in the roof, his buddy with the police scanner tells him, "Yo, that's it. They're on their way. They're responding." And he jumps off the roof and broke his ankle really bad. And so they had to carry him away from the job. But that's why he didn't like to play handball with me, because he had the bad ankle. So, through the years, we move around. Like I said, he went to Lewisburg, and I ended up getting transferred to different prisons. We kept in touch for a little while. And when I come home, I want to find him. You know what I mean? I don't know where he is. So I hit the computer, and I couldn't look for him right away because I was on parole, and I figured he would be on parole. So I waited. And then when I got off of parole, I said, "Let me hit the computer and look for this guy." And I found him, and sadly, Fat Frankie passed away. I didn't get the chance to see him in the free world. I regret it. You know what I mean? I love the guy. Yeah, he was crazy. Yeah, he lived a wild life, but I know the man personally, and he was very good to me, and I helped him with some things while we were in there. And he's a guy that I'll miss. He's a guy that I'll miss. So I wanted to give you a little story about one of the characters I was in there with, you know, Fat Frankie Jacoby. He was a great guy, man. A great guy. You guys have a wonderful day. I'll give you a more exciting story soon. Take care.